The minute you tell a man how much you like him, you lose him. The second you share details about your dating past, his interest fades. When you reveal your relationship insecurities, he starts pulling away. And every woman does it thinking it will bring them closer together. Here's what's really happening. There are 3 specific things that kill a man's attraction instantly, and you're probably revealing all of them without even realizing it. These aren't obvious mistakes. These are things every dating expert tells you to do. Things society says make you authentic and vulnerable. Things that feel like they should create intimacy, but actually destroy it. If you've been wondering why men ghost after you open up, why they lose interest right when things get serious, why they pull back the moment you think you're connecting, this is your answer. Because what I'm about to reveal goes against everything you've been taught about modern dating. This isn't about playing games or being manipulative. This is about understanding male psychology at a level most women refuse to accept. Because the truth is uncomfortable. The truth goes against everything you've been taught about modern dating. The truth is that vulnerability, while powerful, has a time and a place. And most women get the timing completely wrong. I'm going to show you exactly what happens in a man's mind when you reveal too much too soon. I'm going to explain the psychological triggers that turn attraction into indifference. And by the end of this, you'll understand why the women who seem to effortlessly attract and keep high quality men aren't the ones spilling their hearts out at every opportunity. They're the ones who understand that mystery isn't about being fake. It's about being strategic. It's about knowing that not every thought needs to be shared, not every feeling needs to be expressed, and not every detail about your life needs to be an open book. Because here's what no one wants to admit. Men are hunters by nature. They're wired to pursue, to chase, to work for what they want. And when you hand everything over without resistance, without challenge, without making him earn it, you rob him of the very process that creates deep attraction. You eliminate the pursuit, and without pursuit, there's no prize. The women who understand this don't just get dates, they get devotion. They don't just attract interest, they command respect. They don't just find relationships. They find partnerships where they hold the power, where they're valued, where they're never taken for granted. And if you're tired of being the woman who gives too much too fast, who opens up too quickly, who wonders why men lose interest after getting to know the real you, then everything changes today. Because what I'm about to reveal will shift how you approach every interaction with men from this moment forward. Let's talk about psychology, because male psychology isn't complicated once you understand the fundamentals. Men are goal-oriented creatures. They value what they work for more than what they're given freely. This isn't cultural conditioning. This is biological programming that goes back thousands of years. When something comes easily, the male brain interprets it as less valuable. When something requires effort, investment, time, energy, the brain assigns it higher worth. It's the same reason why a man will drive across town for a restaurant he's heard great things about, but ignore the equally good place next door to his apartment. Scarcity creates value. Effort creates attachment. Challenge creates desire. But somewhere along the way, women started believing that being completely transparent was the path to lasting love. That showing all your cards would prove your authenticity. That having no walls, no boundaries, no filters would demonstrate your trustworthiness. And the result? Men got bored. They stopped pursuing. They started taking you for granted. Because when there's nothing left to discover, there's nothing left to be curious about. And curiosity is the fuel that keeps attraction alive. The most magnetic women throughout history understood this instinctively. They knew that revelation was a reward, not a right. They knew that access to their inner world had to be earned, not demanded. They moved with intention, spoke with purpose, and never confused oversharing with intimacy. But modern dating has convinced women that this approach is outdated, that it's manipulative, that it's not being yourself. And that's exactly why so many women are struggling in their dating lives. They've been told to abandon strategy in favor of complete transparency, and they're paying the price. Because here's the truth that dating coaches don't want to tell you. Men don't want to know everything about you right away. They want to discover you gradually. They want to feel like they're earning your trust, your time, your attention. They want to work for the privilege of knowing the deeper parts of who you are. When you eliminate that process, you eliminate the foundation that deep attraction is built on. And that's exactly what happens when you reveal the 3 things I'm about to share with you. The first thing you must never reveal to a man is how much you like him. Because the moment you confess your feelings before he's expressed his, you hand over all your power. You become the pursuer instead of the pursued. And men, by their very nature, lose interest in what pursues them. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how a man's behavior changes the second he knows you're completely into him? How he suddenly becomes less attentive, less consistent, less invested? That's not an accident. That's psychology. When a man knows exactly where he stands with you, when he knows he has your heart without having to work for it, his brain switches from pursuit mode to maintenance mode. The challenge is gone. The mystery is solved. The game is over. And yes, I said game because dating is a game, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. It's a game with rules, with strategy, with winners and losers. And the women who refuse to play by the rules are the ones who end up consistently losing. But the woman who understands this psychology, she never makes her feelings obvious. She doesn't confess her attraction. She doesn't profess her growing feelings. Instead, she shows interest through her actions while maintaining emotional distance through her words. She's warm, but not overwhelming. She's engaged, but not desperate. She's present, but not available at every moment. She creates a dynamic where he's constantly wondering, what, does she like me as much as I'm starting to like her? And that wondering, that uncertainty, that slight insecurity about where he stands with you is what keeps him pursuing. It's what keeps him investing. It's what keeps him trying to win you over instead of assuming he already has. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. It's the most powerful form of behavioral conditioning that exists. When someone gets inconsistent feedback, when they can't predict the response, when they have to work for validation, they become more invested, not less. But the moment you remove that uncertainty, the moment you make your feelings obvious, you remove the very thing that was driving his interest. You eliminate the chase. And men need the chase. They're biologically programmed for it. This doesn't mean being cold or unresponsive. It means being selective with your emotional revelations. It means making him work to understand how you feel about him. It means never being more invested in the relationship than he is. Because here's what happens when you maintain this mystery. He starts working harder. He starts planning better dates. He starts being more consistent with his communication. He starts investing more of his time, his energy, his attention into winning you over. And the more he invests, the more attached he becomes, not to who you are, but to what he's put into pursuing you. Men fall in love with their own effort. They fall in love with the process of winning someone over. And when you make that process too easy, you rob them of the very mechanism that creates deep attachment. So ask yourself, are you revealing your feelings too quickly? Are you making it obvious how much you like him before he's proven he's worthy of those feelings? Are you eliminating the chase that his brain is wired to crave? Because the woman who keeps her emotional cards close to her chest, who makes him wonder, who makes him work for her heart, she's the one who ends up being cherished instead of taken for granted. She's the one who gets the commitment, the devotion, the love that lasts. The second thing you must never reveal is your dating history. Not the details, not the numbers, not the timeline, not the drama. Because every piece of information you share about your romantic past becomes a measuring stick he uses to evaluate you and your relationship potential. Men can't help themselves. When you tell them about your ex-boyfriends, they start comparing. When you mention past relationships, they start analyzing patterns. When you share details about your dating experiences, they start judging your choices, your standards, your values. And here's the brutal truth. No matter what your dating history looks like, there's always something for him to find problematic. Too many relationships, you don't know how to be alone. Too few relationships, something must be wrong with you. Long-term relationships, you might be comparing him to your ex. Short-term relationships, you don't know how to commit. This isn't fair, but it's reality. Men's brains are designed to categorize, to assess risk, to determine worthiness based on past behavior. And when you volunteer information about your romantic history, you're giving him data points to build a case for or against you. But more damaging than his judgment is what happens to the relationship dynamic when your past becomes a present topic. Suddenly, your ex-boyfriends are sitting at the table with you. Your past relationships are influencing your current one. Your dating history is taking up space in a connection that should be focused entirely on the two people in it. Every time you reference a past relationship, you're pulling focus away from what you're building together and redirecting it to what you built with someone else. Every comparison you make, every lesson you share, every story you tell is a reminder that he's not the first, that this feeling isn't unique, that what you're experiencing together isn't special. Men want to feel like they're different. They want to believe that what they have with you is unlike anything you've experienced before. They want to feel chosen, not settled for, special, not interchangeable. And when you constantly reference your past, you undermine that feeling. Think about the most captivating women you know. Do they talk about their exes? Do they share details about their dating disasters? Do they compare their current partner to previous ones? Of course not. They make every man feel like he's the first to make them feel this way. They understand that your past belongs in your past, that your previous relationships served their purpose and are now irrelevant to your current situation. They know that mystery about where you've been creates more intrigue than transparency about your romantic resume. Because here's what men don't want to hear, even if they ask. They don't want to know about the man who broke your heart. They don't want details about your sexual history. They don't want to hear about the one that got away. And they definitely don't want to be compared, even favorably, to men who came before them. But women, in their desire to be open and honest, share these details, thinking it builds intimacy. They believe that revealing their past shows trust. They think that being transparent about their experiences creates deeper connection. And they're wrong, dead wrong, because intimacy isn't built through historical data sharing. It's built through present moment connection. It's created through all what you experience together, not through stories of what you experience with others. It's developed through the unique dynamic you create, not through comparisons to dynamics that failed. The woman who protects her past, who keeps her dating history private, who doesn't feel the need to explain or justify her journey to love, she maintains an air of mystery that keeps men fascinated. She makes him feel like he's discovering uncharted territory instead of walking through a museum of her previous relationships. So ask yourself, are you oversharing about your romantic past? Are you bringing your ex-boyfriends into your current relationship through stories and references? Are you giving him reasons to judge you instead of reasons to choose you? Because the woman who keeps her past private doesn't do it out of shame. She does it out of strategy. She knows that her history is hers to carry, not his to analyze. She understands that creating a clean slate for new love is more powerful than burdening it with old baggage. The third and most dangerous thing you must never reveal is your insecurities about the relationship itself, your fears about where it's going, your anxiety about his feelings, your uncertainty about your future together. Because the moment you voice these concerns, you become the problem that needs to be managed instead of the prize that needs to be won. Men don't want to be your therapist. They don't want to constantly reassure you about their intentions. They don't want to manage your relationship anxiety while they're still figuring out their own feelings. And when you put them in that position, they start seeing you as needy instead of desirable. Here's what happens in a man's mind when you express insecurity about the relationship. He stops seeing you as confident and self-assured. He stops viewing you as someone who adds value to his life and starts seeing you as someone who requires emotional maintenance. The dynamic shifts from him trying to impress you to him trying to appease you. And that shift is relationship poison, because men fall in love with women who enhance their lives, not with women who complicate them. They're attracted to confidence, not constant need for validation. They want partners who trust the process, not partners who question every step. When you ask, where is this going? You're not seeking clarification. You're revealing insecurity. When you say, I'm not sure how you feel about me, you're not opening communication. You're showcasing doubt. When you express anxiety about the relationship's future, you're not being vulnerable. You're being burdensome. And men respond to burden by pulling away. They respond to pressure by creating distance. They respond to insecurity by questioning their own feelings. Because if you don't believe you're worthy of love, why should they? The most magnetic women never ask where the relationship is going. They don't seek constant reassurance about his feelings. They don't voice their fears about the future, not because they don't have these concerns, but because they handle them internally. They process their anxiety privately. They work through their insecurities without making them his problem. They understand that relationship insecurity is like quicksand. The more you struggle against it out loud, the deeper you sink. The more you discuss it, the bigger it becomes. The more attention you give it, the more real it gets. Instead, they focus on being the kind of woman a man naturally wants to commit to. They become so valuable, so irreplaceable, so amazing to be around that the question of where this is going answers itself. They make themselves so essential to his happiness that he can't imagine his life without them. They do this by being secure in themselves, not in the relationship. By finding fulfillment in their own lives, not just in his attention. By maintaining their independence while building connection. By being whole people who choose to share their completeness, not broken people seeking someone to fix them. Because here's the truth about relationship anxiety. It's not really about him or the relationship. It's about your own self-worth. It's about your belief in your own value. It's about your confidence in your ability to create the love you want. And when you put the responsibility for your emotional security on his shoulders, you're asking him to do something only you can do. You're asking him to convince you that you're worthy of love when that conviction has to come from within you. The woman who never reveals her relationship insecurities isn't hiding her feelings. She's handling them like a mature adult. She's taking responsibility for her own emotional state. She's demonstrating the kind of emotional intelligence that makes men want to build a future with her. She knows that relationships thrive on positive energy, not constant problem solving. She understands that men are drawn to women who make their lives better, not more complicated. She recognizes that security is something she creates for herself, not something she demands from others. So ask yourself, are you bringing your relationship anxiety into your interactions with him? Are you making your insecurities his responsibility to fix? Are you positioning yourself as a problem to be solved rather than a prize to be won? Because the woman who handles her fears privately, who works through her insecurities internally, who shows up as secure and confident regardless of what's happening in the relationship, she's the woman men fight to keep. She's the woman they commit to. She's the woman they marry. A woman who masters these three principles doesn't just change her dating life. She transforms her entire relationship with power, with self-worth, with her own value in the world. She stops being reactive and becomes magnetic. She stops chasing and starts choosing. She stops begging for love and starts commanding it. She understands that attraction isn't about being perfect. It's about being strategic. It's not about being completely open. It's about being selectively vulnerable. It's not about sharing everything. It's about sharing the right things at the right time with the right person. And this creates a fundamental shift in how men see her and how they interact with her. They stop treating her like an option and start seeing her as a priority. They stop taking her for granted and start appreciating her presence. They stop being casual and start being intentional. Because when you withhold these three things, you maintain the mystery that keeps attraction alive. You preserve the challenge that makes men want to pursue. You protect the dynamic that creates lasting desire. You become the woman who doesn't need to ask where the relationship is going because it's obvious from his actions. You become the woman who doesn't worry about his feelings because they're evident in his behavior. You become the woman who doesn't question her worth because she's treated like she's invaluable. This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding masculine psychology and working with it instead of against it. It's about recognizing that men and women are different and adjusting your approach accordingly. It's about being smart with your heart instead of just following your feelings. The women who apply these principles consistently find themselves in relationships where they're pursued, not pursuing, where they're valued, not taken for granted, where they're cherished, not just tolerated, where they hold the power, not beg for scraps of attention. And that's what every woman deserves, not games or manipulation, but genuine appreciation, not casual interest, but devoted commitment, not someone who settles for her, but someone who chooses her every single day. But it starts with understanding that protection isn't the same as deception, that strategy isn't the same as dishonesty, that maintaining mystery isn't the same as being fake. It's about being intelligent with your emotions, strategic with your vulnerability, and intentional with your revelations. It's about understanding that not every man deserves access to every part of you. That intimacy is earned, not given. That depth is revealed gradually, not dumped all at once. The woman who embraces this approach doesn't just find love. She finds the kind of love that lasts, the kind of love that grows stronger over time, the kind of love where she's treated like the prize she is. So ask yourself one final question. Are you ready to stop giving your power away? Are you ready to stop